You are watching Reed's Conversations, a podcast series on writing, filmmaking, acting, and theater. In this episode, I will have a conversation with attorney, screenwriter, and novelist Mariama Myers. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Reed's Conversations, the podcast series on writing, filmmaking, acting, and theater. In this conversation, I had a great pleasure and honor talking to Mariama Myers. Mariama Myers is a published novelist as well as a attorney and screenwriter. She currently lives in California, and we just talked about her creative career of how she made the leap from living in Washington, D.C. to California to pursue screenwriting, and then later on becoming a published novelist and an attorney. And it's great because she and I first met on the wordplayer.com website back in early 2000. And that's a website that is the home website for screenwriter and producer Terry Rossio, who is best known for writing Disney's Aladdin, Shrek, and Pirates of the Caribbean. And we just talked about her fond memories of how she first came across Wordplayer in the beginning, and just making a lot of great friends, friends that were called the SoCal Film Group, which is short for Southern California Film Group, and just about her work, of how the short films that she made, as well as scripts that she wrote. And then we also go into her published work, where we definitely have a deep conversation about one of her books called The Woods, and that's a fantastic fantasy horror type of story, and it's fantastic. So just finished reading that book, had a lot of questions for her and discussion, so that was fantastic talking about The Woods. But then we also talk about her other published work, about how she had a diary and she published it as a book, and it's called the How I Passed the State California Bar Exam, which is really fascinating. It's essentially her diary, or her journaling about how she was writing her thoughts down while she was in the middle of taking the California bar exam to become an attorney, which is fascinating and amazing. And then we also talk about her book 50 Shades of Gore, which is an anthology series that features stories in the horror genre. And then also we take a spotlight on her dogs. Mariama has 5 purebred German Rottweilers, and they're basically media darlings. They are trending on social media. They're on TikTok, Instagram, as well as Facebook. And it's really incredible, I think, just the amount of followers they have. So we definitely talk about our dogs. And then in the interview, you will see them occasionally coming through in the background as we were recording. So just really great conversation with Mariama. I'm just so glad she took the time to be on my show. So without further ado, let's go ahead and I'll show you the conversation that I had with novelist, attorney, and screenwriter Mariama Myers. All right, so here I am with how do you pronounce it? Is it Mariama?
Yep.
Mariama Myers. So I'm with Mariama Myers, who I'm trying to remember how we first met. We met through Wordplay, obviously, wordplayer.com, Ted Elliott Terrazio's website. I think it was in like early 2000, wasn't it? Through the message boards. This was way before Facebook.
Wow.
So
Wait, yeah, that was our social that was our way to connect socially was via Word Player. It was before Facebook, right around the time of MySpace.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think yeah, so it
Uh,
was not yeah. I first found it in 98. So between 98 and I moved out here in 2000. So between 98 and 2000.
yeah, because it was even before MySpace, because it was MySpace followed, then Facebook became its own thing, and then a lot of
Hmm.
people started venturing. But at the time, if you wanted to, like you said, socially interact, wordplayer.com was one of the sites, and that's how we met when I was
Yeah.
just a youngin, as I remember correctly. Had much to learn, had much to learn. Try not to be intimidated by talented folk like yourself and things like that. So that's
Oh, thank you.
Yes, that's how I remember meeting, well, at least, interacting. Because I remember when I was young, you took the time to send me just a really nice email about something about story. So I never forgotten about that. Never forgotten about that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's how much I remember, and that's the impression that you and the other writers did, even with my faults and stuff like that, or my naivete. You were always very gracious, so that I'm very eternally thankful for.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate hearing that.
Yeah. And then let's start at the beginning. So you currently live in California, but you're originally from Washington, D.C., is that
Whoop,
correct?
whoop. Yeah, born and raised, born and raised.
And also, I got to remember also do a quick shout out because as we're recording this episode, it is Juneteenth. It is Freedom Day.
Right? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, happy Juneteenth. Happy
Thank
Juneteenth.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. So how long did you live in Washington, D.C. before you moved to California? And what was
Wow.
the reason behind moving?
That's so funny. Okay, so right quick. So my undergrad degree is in film. And so I moved out to California with the dream of being a screenwriter, right? I was like, oh, I'm gonna make movies. I'm gonna write movies. So I need to be in California. I can't do it. Well, you can do it from DC, but DC is more in terms of like international relations, politics, law, stuff like that. To write movies, you need to be in the heart of the movie industry, right? So, boom, I stumbled upon wordplay, and I met online anyway. Melanie, she posted on wordplay as Perfect Suze.
Okay.
But Melanie, so she and I clicked immediately. Terry Rossio was giving one of his famous parties, and so Melanie invited me, Ian Gibson, Aaron, and a bunch of other word players out to stay with her so we could go to the party. I was like, wow, okay. Yeah, she did. She just like come stay with me. So we came out. Um, it was around Christmas. And then, well, the first time was around summer. She invited us out again, was around Christmas. And Melanie was like, you should just stay here. And I was like, I can't just stay. She's like, yeah, just stay. I'm like, with you. She's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, okay. So yeah. So I was like, well, I need to get my stuff because I literally had enough like clothes for like a couple of days. So yeah, this was in around Christmas of '99, February 2000. I moved out and I stayed with Melanie almost 3 years actually.
Wow.
Yeah. And Melanie and I are like this Virgos. I mean, we hit it off immediately. And it's so funny because from wordplay, like now you hear stories of people catfishing or whatever, but on wordplay, it's website for geeky writers, you really can get a sense of a person's character. Like you, unless the person is really being deceitful, just from interacting with them, you can really get a true sense of who they are, and that's how I met Melanie. And boom, she graciously invited me to live with her. I stayed with her for about almost 3 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
so that's how I and even now we're still close, even all these years later. But yeah, so that's how I came out. I took a leap of faith uh and just made the plunge. That's how I did it.
Wow, that's incredible. My gosh. And of course, so was it just like, because I wasn't sure what you were doing career-wise before jumping. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna go live in California. I'm gonna just stay with my
Also, career wise, so while I was attending Howard University, go Bison. And while I was attending Howard full time, I was working at the Library of Congress full time.
oh,
Um, yeah, so that was a great job for that. But then when I graduated in, degree in film, I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay in DC or am I going to make that plunge, take the plunge? And so that's what did it. But um, even when I moved to California, my God, it took me forever to get like a job.
mhm.
Like my good friend Jay Lynn. Shout out to Jay Lynn.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
she was working at the time. She was working at USC, and so she was able to get me a temporary position there through a staffing agency. So I was at yeah, she was working at the USC provost office, so she was able to get me in there for a little bit. But I was literally unemployed for 18 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and this is with a degree, and so that had me just questioning my life choices at that point. It's like, what the heck? I'm not a candidate for a starving artist. I need a job. And
Yeah.
so, 18 months. And so I didn't understand it. But then, thank God, Social Security, I was applying online to all these different jobs, and Social Security scooped me up. And I was with Social Security. I recently left due to Doge. I left. But prior to that, yeah, I was with Social Security for a good while. They were great. I loved the agency. It was a fantastic employment opportunity. I learned so much, met some great people. But that's my story. I came out here to write movies. I took that. Who knew everybody and their mama was out here trying to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
California, right?
Exactly. And this is again like in the late 90s, early 2000s. And now it's because I know the game's kind of changed a little bit where there's a lot of people that live outside of California and somehow they're still able to maintain careers. But you are correct that if you really want to get close to writing movies, you definitely have to go to California in most cases.
Mhm. And like now, who knows? Because after COVID, they're probably a lot more, game to do stuff via Zoom and whatnot. But back then, it was like, for all the meetings and whatnot, it was in person.
Yeah.
Like Ted and Terry's, how they say they go with their big old corkboard, right? It's like in person type of meetings. But I say that, but I also believe everything happens for a reason. I don't believe in coincidences, and I think God's timing is impeccable. So things have worked out for me. It's just looking back on it's like wow, it's like wow. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so you just moved so you moved from Washington D.C. to California, just living with your friend Melanie for 3 years, till he got the job at Social Security. And all the while were you just trying to just like get your foot in the door in the sense of just trying to write some really good like screenplays and just getting to know people? Uh
yeah.
yeah, you want to talk?
So so I was the whole time, which is why I said the starving artist, that's not for me. So the whole time I was still writing, still plugging away at screenplays. In fact, Ian and I were uh, screenwriting partners too. And so we were also trying to knock out different screenplays and whatnot the whole time, all the way up and until, and even now, like I still write now. But of course, you have a lot more time to devote to writing when you're not also working full time.
Yes.
Um, yeah. But the flip side of that is unless you're independently wealthy, you need income. You're like, you need some money coming in. So you have that stress beating down on you too. It's like, man, which can hinder or help, I guess, depending on what type of stuff you want to write,
Yes.
But I mean, I guess some people could say they were fueled by, you know, being on the brink, but I prefer to be content, and write from that place versus being a starving artist. But yeah, I was writing the whole time.
Yeah, and do you recall the projects that you worked on with Ian Gibson, which thankfully I just became recent Facebook friends with him, so big shout out to Ian Gibson. Uh, but do you remember the projects you worked on?
Yeah.
Because I know
So
that Terry Razio recently came out with a column called Shelf Puppies, where it's basically letting. Have you read that column yet that he
I
wrote?
have not. I haven't.
You should
Not
take a
yet.
look. It's basically trying to acknowledge all the stuff that went unproduced and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, and I know that you're a big dog person, so you can relate to this. It's kind of like, imagine you have a lonely puppy that's on a shelf. All it wants to be is love and taken care of. So let's take it off that shelf and show it some love. And the puppy in this case are those projects that were just not. seeing the light of day. So do you have any of your shelf puppies that you really enjoyed working on, but some reason
Yeah.
not many people
So
know?
yeah, so we had one that actually, and that's a whole other thing. We were also he and I as a screenwriting team, and also separately, we're entering all kinds of screenwriting contests as well. So my favorite project that we did was Fairy. It went from fairy tale to fairy. We were changing the name up, but that's still my favorite one that we did, and it's a, it's basically about this married couple, and they discover that one of them is half fairy, and
Oh,
so they during one stormy night, of course, has to be a stormy night, they discover an entry to fairy to the land of fairy, and they go through to the other side, and it's an adventure fantasy, I guess would be the apt description for it. But that's my and so it made the rounds. It placed in these different contests and whatnot. It never actually won, but it did place in several numerous contests. But we haven't touched it in years because, of course, we started doing other things. But that's my favorite one, Fairy. Should probably take a look at it if you interview Ian.
yeah, I would love to read it because I've read other scripts. Like I read Ronson Page's script of The Bone Orchard that he wrote. So if you want to send me a copy of the script, I would love to read it. Just
For sure. I have to find it. I have like so many laptops. That's like so many laptops ago, but I know it's somewhere. I need to find it, and I'll email it to you for sure.
yeah. And then any others like similar to Fairy or Fairy Tale? Any other projects?
With Ian, that was my favorite one I think I've done with Ian. Fairy Tale by far, because I thought that one had the most potential. Like it's witty, it's adventurous, it's lots of twists and turns. Yeah, I think that one by far, and it's very visual as well. Well, clearly it's a screenplay, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's my favorite that we've done.
Yeah, it's kind of like the strange attractors you call it. There's that hook of
Yeah,
the yeah. And any
yeah,
projects that you wrote without Ian? Any just your own that you wrote independently or anything like that?
yeah. So my favorite one is The Woods, and so
Yeah, it's
and it's funny because work reading. I don't remember if it was a column on Wordplay or if it was just our individual posts. But that's how I ended up making it a novel. It's to gain ownership of it because I remember reading there where they were saying, well, when you do a screenplay, you lose those rights. And the only one who retains the rights are like playwrights, authors, if you already have it published. And so that is what made me do it as a novel. But yeah, that's my favorite project, The
yeah.
Woods.
And
Yeah, I
especially
spent a long time on that one.
speaking of the books, and for those of viewers who are able to see, here's the cover of The Woods right here. Or yeah, and I love the back of the description too, where one of the characters named Dwight says, Kyle's grandmother always said never cry over spilt milk, but spilt blood is a lot worse than spilt milk.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's my favorite one. Easily. That's not even a competition. Yeah, that's my favorite.
And do you remember how long ago that? Oh, and also got it for our viewers and listeners. You also, before we jump into the other stuff, you own five German Rottweilers that are social
Yes.
media celebrities in their own work.
Yeah, you may have heard Reddy. I can and that's another thing. We can tell them apart by their bark. So I know that was our grandpup Reddy barking. So we have five. We have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have YouTube, Rambo Retro. That's the name Rambo Retro. TikTok, we have over actually today it's like 645,000 of followers on TikTok. Yes, a lot of dog fans apparently. We created it just for us, our enjoyment, and we started getting hits. So we were like, oh wow. And then we started getting these like people will send us messages. And it's so heartwarming because sometimes they would be like, I'm going through this, going through that. and I see you guys video, it makes my whole day. And we're like, oh my God, yeah, And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, I was depressed, or sometimes they lost their dog, but watching our boys just lifts them up, and they're like very encouraging. And they're like, we appreciate what you do. And so now that we try to one provide an opposite type of view to the Rottweiler, because the Rottweiler gets a really negative has a negative reputation, and
Yeah.
so we provide more family friendly family friendly version of the Rotties, and we try to keep the entertainment family friendly as well.
Yeah.
And so that's our goal, and we just amazed at how well it has taken off. But yeah, we have five Rottweilers.
That's cool. And what are their names again?
So
Roscoe.
they're Rambo. So the name Rambo Retro, it came from our boy. So the first two we ever had were Rambo and Retro. And so we had them first. And then 9 months later, we decided to see the new litter. And that's how we came away with Rascal. So Rambo, Retro, Rascal. Then we got Rosh. And then our grand pup, which is Retro's pup, Ready. So Rambo, Retro, Rascal, Rosh, and Ready.
That is
Those
fantastic.
are our big.
Man. And also they're purebreds too. They're purebred German Rottweilers.
Yeah. So Rambo Retro and Rambo and Retro are litter mates, and they're German. In fact, the breeder went to Germany for their parent. Their dad is straight from Germany.
Wow.
So Rambo Retro are the first litter. Rascals from the second litter, same parents. And then Rosh is Serbian. So he's the only one that's Serbian. And then our grand pup is German and Serbian. But yeah, all Rottweilers, and the breed is such a powerful breed. Not just their bite, but their bodies. Like they can literally knock me over if they're running around, running through the house easily. They can take your knees. Like you have to really be aware when they're playing or whatever. So I'm used to it now, but for those who might be thinking of getting one, just keep that in mind. They're not only are their mouths, their bite is I think one quarter the strength PSI of a shark. So it's
Whoa.
very strong. Yeah. So not only the bite, but the body force too. Their bodies, they used to hurt cattle. That's what their breed used to do.
Oh,
So they're very powerful. Yeah.
I did not know that because when you think of the stereotypical view of Rottweilers, you just think of like horror movies or the like
Hmm.
police squads, and but I didn't
The
know
omen. Yeah.
I had no idea they herd cattle. That's amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, they're very and they're family friendly. It just depends like any dog. It depends on the owner. You train them, you socialize them. They're very loyal, very intelligent, they're very protective. They're big teddy bears.
I like that. It's like teddy bears, but they have the jaws of sharks. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
gotta.
yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
so cool, man. I appreciate you sharing that information. And for those who, I get what was the name for the TikTok, if they want to check out the Rottweilers?
Oh, sure. So it's Rambo Retro. So Rambo, like the movie, RAMB Rambo, and then retro, like back in time retro, RETRO. So, but it's one word, Rambo Retro. And that's on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and in Facebook, it's Rambo Retro Official, because some imposters have already taken a Rambo Retro. So it's Rambo Retro Official on Facebook.
Yeah, and for those who are trying to imitate you, I think I said it earlier, like imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but not when it comes to your IP. It's kind of like keep it well guarded.
Thank you, right? So leave us alone. Get your own stuff.
Yeah, back off, you posers. Get a real
Right?
one.
Right? Exactly. It's so infuriating.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so now back to the wood. And also talk about so with the screenwriting website wordplayer.com. So when you were on the forums, so how did you meet like Steve Barr, Christopher Vallon? Because there's a group called the SoCal Film Group, which is short for Southern California Film Group. So how did how did you guys kind of meet to do your own films? Like, I know you did
So,
quite a few of short films that you guys all participated in different functions of
mhm.
production and all that.
So, so it all wordplay was like the magnet, right? We all were like pulled to it, drawn to it. And so we would all chat and whatnot, where on wordplay, and we just clicked. And part of the clicking was so Melanie, she would throw the wordplay parties. She was the one responsible for throwing those, and so we would click on the parties, and also we would click online, but also at the wordplay parties and also at Terry's parties. And we noticed that it was the same ones connecting, same ones. And we were all in the LA area. And so a few of us decided, and this was before TikTok, before YouTube. Had we had they been invented back then, who knows? Because we didn't really have an avenue to show the videos and whatnot. But anyway, so this was before all of that. And so some of us said, hey, we should do a film group. And then Terry donated a bunch of equipment for us. Like we had this dolly, like he was really helpful. And we even shot some of the stuff at his house
Really?
on Mulholland. Yeah, it was great. So he was very encouraging and whatnot. And so we would we would write the script and then we would email it. I forgot all about the, oh my God, there's so many emails. And so we would email, and then we would vote on which script we would do next. And by do, I mean some of us would be, see, that was the key. We had to all participate. So some would be a producer, some would do lighting, some would do sound, and we would all do each other's stuff. We would just vote. Okay, well, we just did two of yours, so now we have to do mine, or now we'll do Steve's, or now we'll do and we did it. And I remember we did. We had a, like I mentioned, Terry was so encouraging. We even did like a film fest where we showed the films we produced, and Terry let us do it at his house. And so that was awesome. It was like, I don't know, some Saturday night in the summer. But each of the films that we had done so far, boom, we showed them at his house, and it was so cool. And I never forget because one of our members, Danny Grossman, rest in peace, he passed away, and I never forget. He made it a point to come over to me, and he was like, Mariama. He's like, he's like, I just want to introduce you to my father because he really enjoyed your movie. And I was like, what? Like, first of all, my movie, I would have never guessed that his dad, my little short movie, it was just about how people see Black people and inherently feel fear. Some people, right? And so it was I remember thinking, okay, this is nothing like I envisioned it, because in DC there's this park, Rock Creek Park, where there's all these woods, and that's the image I had was jogger. She was gonna be running through the woods, and then she would see this Black guy, and she would be fearful. But we ended up having to shoot it in a park, where California parks, where it's like open greenery. It's like, oh man. But we still made it happen. And the message I was trying to convey, it still got through, to the point where his dad, I could not believe that. He's like, my dad, he wants to, he thank you. And I was like, really? So I still remember that really made an impact on me. I can still see his face. I can still see all of that. So I was really, really moved by that. But we did, all of that at Terry's house. Like we shot so many at his house. We did the film festival at his house. And we would just vote. We would send the email and say, okay. And then, well, it was all voluntary too. It's like, well, who wants to? And we were working, so we had to do it on the weekend, sometimes weeknights. And it was just like, okay, who wants to do this one? Who can show up at this shoot?
Mhm.
And it was just basically if you think of wordplay back then, and you could see who was replying to who, and the usual suspects, me, Steve, Jalen, John Hayes, he was there. He's a actually a Hollywood sound person.
Yes.
And he is there. And we just said, yeah, let's do it. And, everyone bringing their expertise. And it was so much fun. But looking back, boy, if we had TikTok or YouTube, oh my goodness,
Yeah,
man.
because I was able to watch a handful of the short films. Thankfully, they still exist on YouTube, thank God. And because I was just thinking about that too the other day. It's like, gosh, like imagine if you took all that talent today, made those short films. Just imagine the great quality. Because when you made these short films, this is like near the end of the 90s, coming into 2000. And so I can imagine like you just had to do whatever tools you had available. It's great, especially with Terry Rossio very generously allowing you like the actual equipment. but
Mm-hmm.
and even YouTube wasn't even there was no YouTube until what was it, 2000, and I want to say 2006 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I just remember looking back like now and thinking like, wow, if we even had half, you know what I mean? Like we could have just been
Yeah.
um
And it's still possible. Maybe you can get like a reunion. Let's say, hey, let's do one or two short films, and just get together and do something fun. Just do something fun that's not gonna cost us hours of sleep with our jobs that we already have or whatever projects they are.
right with families. Like I was thinking, and even Tim. Oh my God, Tim was there. He's married with, and his kids are in college now. And I'm like, this was back when his kid, no kids, and I'm like looking back, like, oh my God, it's incredible. Yeah, his kids are in college now. That's incredible. How because I mean we were just young with time to spare at that. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, let's do it over the weekend. Let's go.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. Yeah.
And I also, when I had Christopher Vallon as one of my
Mm-hmm.
first guests on my show, he definitely talked about how you and a few others would just go to the movies too together in groups. Like you would go to see Gladiator, and then you would just talk
Yeah.
about the film afterwards. So can you share a little bit about your favorite just moving going experiences with your group of friends who are also wanting to be storytellers in your own right? Can you share some like favorite like movies you saw, and then what would inspire you to try to incorporate that into your work and all that?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I believe so. As I mentioned, Melanie would throw the wordplay parties, where the word players would gather. So this one particular time, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we all got together to see. I believe we saw Shrek. I believe I saw for the first time because Ted and Terry wrote it, and they were there. They always showed up at the parties too. By the way, Ted and Terry would always show up at the wordplay parties, and we we all saw. I'm almost certain we all saw Shrek, unless we saw it first and then saw it again. But I'm almost certain we saw Shrek, and that's like my favorite animation by far. Shrek. I love Shrek. I love the humor. Shrek. Like we were quoting those lines even now. Like I love Shrek, and so that I'm almost certain we saw it. The wordplay party. So that I used to really enjoy doing that too. Like we would all pick a great summer, summer blockbuster. Boom, we go see it, and then a bunch of geeky writers are sitting around critiquing it. It was awesome. You can't beat it.
And I was going to say, too, for those who don't really know who Terry Rossio and Ted Elliott are, like we just mentioned Shrek, they wrote Shrek, which is an awesome movie. So yeah, so for viewers and listeners who don't know who they are, can you describe who they are and why it's such a big deal of not only just going to his parties, but having his support through the equipment? So can you talk about, do you know the projects he's worked that, the produced stuff and all that they worked on?
Yeah, oh God, let's see. So Ted and Terry. So with what wordplayer.com, that was like well, my degree is in film. So I have that background, but also being able to visit wordplayer.com, get to know the people, read the columns and the forums. that was like a whole nother education in screenwriting, because I've learned so much in terms of character development, the difference between filmic writing and versus writing for, say, the stage or novel writing, because it is a distinct difference. All of that from wordplay, Ted and Terry specifically. So they were like our mentors before we even, if you put a word on it, they were all of our mentors. Like it just constantly, like I said, that was before Facebook. That was our social interaction. A bunch of geeky writers responding. And I remember Melanie and I saying, "Did they respond? Did someone respond?" Like we'll post a topic, and then the funny thing is trying to keep it on topic, because Anne was like the word play webmaster, right?
And
She
Garrett.
was yeah. So she'd be quick to, if it's not on a topic, she's quick to delete it. So that walking that tightrope to make sure it's on topic, but also witty and fun. That was part of it too, because as you're typing it, you're trying to throw in a movie reference, but for sure if it's
Mhm.
a really tight line, and she just might delete. So that was fun, but that was our social interaction right there. So Ted and Terry, man, if I had never found wordplay, I probably wouldn't even have moved out here. So it was all instrumental.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've learned so much from wordplayer.com for
Yeah.
sure.
And their movies that they've written, I mean, the first
Oh
one
my
that comes to
gosh.
mind is Disney's Aladdin. They wrote Disney's Aladdin in 1992.
Little Monsters.
That's Little Monsters with Fred Savage and Howie Mandel. But then they also did some other great stuff. They did The Mask of Zorro,
Yeah.
uncredited work for Men in Black.
Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh, then
Yes.
that is one of my favorite. Oh my God. And that's another one we saw together with
Ah,
at the wordplay group. Yeah. Yeah. So I know for sure, and both Ted and Terry were there. I mean that is, it's nothing. And I just can't even imagine writing a movie and then viewing it with an audience as they experience the movie. Like that's got to be the best feeling ever.
oh
Um,
yeah, by far. And
yeah.
so it's really wonderful just with their mentorship
Hmm.
because most people don't do that stuff because if you think about it, if Ann Garrettson, who's the webmaster for Wordplay, hadn't approached Terry years ago, uh, we want to be here talking about them right now if
Yep.
you think about it. So it's a
Yeah.
really strong testament to their generosity, honestly. And so yeah, so I have much great respect for them. And
Yeah, because they didn't have to. When you think about it, back then they spent an inordinate amount of time on there, like a lot of time. I mean, we did too, but we weren't paid screenwriters. Like they were professional screenwriters with tons of other things to do, taking time, graciously taking time out of their busy schedule to respond to our posts.
yes, and I do recall like some, because I was young and I remember sending a message and I look back on it, I'm like, yeah, so but it just showed their generosity and
Mhm.
and it's crazy enough, I'm the main administrator for their official Facebook page. So I do talk to Anne, like we'll message each other. So I've become good pen pals through Facebook with Ann Garrettson. So
Yeah, oh, good for you.
she's awesome. I want to get her on the show one day because I
You
know,
should.
yeah. So Anne, if you're watching this episode, Ann
Yeah.
Garrettson, we need you to try to, get this episode because yeah,
I mean, it's so many times we'll be like, "Uh-oh, Anne's going to delete this, but let me get it out before she sees it."
yeah.
It's
As
a
or
game, yeah,
Or
yeah,
the or spam filter is like, there's an iffy word here. May want to correct it, and you're
yeah,
trying to edit it. Like, how
yeah,
do I do?
yeah.
But that's incredible. So it's great how you had this support system.
Mhm.
So yeah, so then let's go to the woods because that's a story that thankfully I definitely took the time to read that story of the woods. So when did the decision uh when did the decision come about to make it into a book? How did that come about after
So I don't remember the exact time. Like when I just remember it came about from wordplay. I remember reading so many posts on wordplay, and then also Terry specifically mentioning how you don't have the ownership, right? When you sign that contract, it even though you wrote the screenplay, it's a work for hire, and so
Mhm.
you lose all rights. The only way to retain the rights is if you already have it, if it already exists in another medium. Um, so if a short story or a novel, a novella, a comic book, any type of other entity where it exists, then the screenplay is adapted by. If it were to ever get produced, you always retain those rights unless you sell them, right? You have to specifically do that. Versus if you just write a screenplay, once it sells, that's it. You don't have the rights. And I remember reading, I'm sure we've all read, how the screenwriters get screwed, like out of all the writers, not the playwright, not TV writers, but the screenwriters are the ones who get screwed because they don't retain anything. The only way to retain is if it exists in another entity. So that's why I'm after reading that, and I'm like, well, shoot, how hard could it be to adapt it into a novel? It was difficult, but not impossible. And so that's what made me do it. I'm like, shh. And so even now, in terms of when I think of writing anything new, the first thing will be to write it first as a either short story, a play, novel, some other entity. Definitely not. Oh, I should rephrase. Definitely, I wouldn't try to sell a screenplay unless I already have it as a short story, comic book, something. It needs to already exist before I try to sell it. So that way you retain the rights to it. Otherwise, if you just sell the screenplay and you don't own any other form of it, you don't have any rights. That director can come in, take it, and you hope you even retain a written by, which of
Mhm.
course we've read a lot of the posts on wordplay. You might not even get that written by credit.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
mhm.
it's kind of the best way to describe it is like imagine you have a car, you sell it, that's it. You want to be the dealership that has so many cars, so it's kind of like so yeah, so a lot of people just don't know that. It's like no, we don't retain the right. So yeah, you're spot on with that, very spot
Yeah.
on.
So that's what prompted me. I started The Woods. That was the first one. And after that, I'm like, well, shoot, that's what I'm just gonna do. I mean, because it doesn't even have to be a good book. Just put it in that book form, right? And then with Amazon's, or it's a bunch of them, bunch of self-publishers, done. Now it's done. Now, if you ever sell that screenplay, you
Yes.
have to write it. Yeah, so that's one of the huge thing I picked up from wordplay. And I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. It's not difficult. Just do it. Well, I shouldn't say that because it's not like it was easy. It's time consuming is what it is. And just do it. And then once you do it, it's done. And then you forever have those rights.
Exactly, yeah, because it's kind of like because I recently adapted one of my screenplays. I'm adapting it as we speak into a play, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Just a different form of language
Yep.
terminology. Because
Yep.
so with the woods, so was it kind of like trying to get out of the mindset of
Yeah.
presently, where it's like
Yeah.
got to write it past tense.
Past it. Yeah. That's because all of those years now your brain is trained to to put it out there a certain way, and then you have to unlearn that. It's like, wait a minute, this is. And I even had to go back and like, oh damn, I missed that one, right? Because it's easy to do because you're used to writing it a certain way. The flip side of that though is by being a screenwriter and writing it so many screenplay, your writing naturally then becomes a lot more visual,
Hmm.
which definitely is a plus because you that helps with novel writing, and that's why another reason why I really love that Stephen King column because that's what he's honing in on that ability to write visually. And so that's a plus, writing visually, which you definitely hone those skills with screenplays for sure.
Exactly. And then the essay you're referring to by Stephen King is from his on writing that's called the writing with the third eye or something like that.
Yes, and I can't remember the exact name, but I think that's it. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And it's available to read on Terry Rosier's website, wordpillar.com. Read it there. But then you also get the book. The book's fantastic too. I have a
I
copy.
love the book for sure. Yeah.
And then let's go into so with the story of the woods. Talk for viewers who don't really know much about the story. And again, spoilers for those who haven't read the book. It's fantastic. So we're gonna dig into
Thank you.
because I want to. After reading it, it's like I have so many questions for Mariama.
For
and
sure.
but yeah, so talk about just the
So
story.
I went old school, right? I went with so I am a writer. Like so initially when I came out of high school, I initially went to NYU with a dramatic writing major. The goal was to be a playwright and novelist. So I couldn't afford to stay at NYU, so I came back home, went to Howard. Howard did not have a just a writing major. The closest was film, so I went with film. But I brought that up to say, with the writing background, I went old school, went back to Agree's. I think it's called the art of dramatic writing. Legos, is it late? Legos Agree, whatever. I can't. I don't know if I'm
Actually,
slaughtering his name.
oh, I got the book right here. Want me to go get it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, 1 second. I'll be right back. I'm gonna wheel over. All right. Hey, and I'm back. Yes, it is The Art of Dramatic Writing by Leos Egri.
Okay, okay, yeah.
You're spot on, spot on.
So that is what I used to write the was so and when I say that I mean I came up I had an idea what I wanted, but the theme which he mentions in there, and I am a purist in terms of that. Everything for me needs to be on the spine. Like if this doesn't advance the story, it needs to go. Which another thing which Terry hops on a lot too on wordplay. So the theme for the woods is your relentless, it's about obsession clearly, but it's your relentless pursuit. You relentlessly pursue something. You may achieve your objective, but then your selfish pursuit. You may achieve your objective, but then it will destroy you. And so that, with that in mind, you can see now how the story, because he just became obsessed, right? And he couldn't pull away. Like he had to go all in. Um, and not just the white, but also Trish.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so that knowing the theme and like having it written in a way that if this, then that,
Mhm.
well, then you can come up with your whole story. Though everything can come out from that. You can build on it if you know this is where I'm going. Now, I don't always go that route. Because so and I we've gotten too many debates on wordplay about do you outline, do you not outline, like a bunch. So that one I outlined for sure. But I don't always. Some of the short stories I'll just sit down and just write them out and try to refine them. But that one I went by the book. That one was like okay, boom, 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 boom. And because to me, and some people may say no, it's too confining. I don't want to, but in a way it's liberating
Mhm.
because you can see clearly where where you're going, all the extraneous stuff gets out, and so you can like, which is hard for me to cut the editor off, but get that first draft out and then get the cutting and make sure it's all on the spine and boom, there it is. So that's how I did the woods. I had my theme, my thematic premise. That's what he calls it, yeah, and just went from there.
That is great. And also, what's great about your story too is, I mean, the main character that I referred to, Dwight, he's definitely a person with a mental handicap. So, and it's interesting because when we start off with, at least with the book, we meet his big brother Kyle, where something, we know that Dwight has disappeared somehow into the woods, some kind of a horrible event happened, but then of course. there's people that would ask him questions, especially his ex-boss was like, so whatever happened to Dwight? And it's kind of like, damn, can't we just talk about American Idol and stuff like that?
Yeah,
And then of
yeah.
course, but then so in a way, and it's interesting from a point of view because for me as a reader, when I read that, because we start with Kyle first, and then he's like, well, I can't really figure out what happened. I know bits and pieces. Oh, here's my idea, my theory, if you will. And then we see it played out within the story, which is fascinating because it really glimpses. And again, I love the story, so I've definitely been paying
Thank you.
attention.
Thank you.
So with the Dwight, so how with the main characters you have yeah, so it's talking about the premise itself. So we have I think in the book it basically shows Kyle with Dwight, who is the main character. They go to the woods just for like just a fun time at a local waterfall, but then Dwight happens to see a woman in the woods and becomes entranced by that woman. And that's what starts the whole obsession that you referred to with their theme.
Yeah. So I, being a fan of Stephen King, right? I love horror and fantasy. So those are the main two genres for the woods. It's drama too, but mainly horror and fantasy. It's a light horror, like it's not like horrific with blood and gore type stuff. Um, but it is horror. It is fantasy too. And so I like the playfulness of the nymphs. And
Mhm.
so it's a nymph that he sees, and being that he has his mental state is a little bit different from the normal person. He is more susceptible to that. So he's got like a childlike view. It's an innocence to him, which enables him to just see all of it. Like he's like he can perceive the magic. I guess is a good way to say it.
That's right, yeah. And then of course, after he counters this nymph in the woods, which we don't know at that point until much later in the story that it's a nymph and there's actually from Greek mythology and all that. But then of course he saves a deer, which a situation happens where an arrow hits the deer. Which is I think is it a fawn? I'm trying to remember a fawn.
Yeah, is it little? Yeah,
Yeah, so I loved it too. That was heartbreaking because you have this really innocent character who loves nature, loves the trees, and can't has better like how you described in your book has better scent than a bloodhound, which I love that
yeah,
description. But it's great though because then it kind of that's where everything really kind of takes off with the story, and then along the way we meet the character Trish who so yeah, can you talk about the character Trish and then what kind because it's really interesting when you kind of go because at that point that's where everything really takes a darker turn in the story.
So yeah, so with Trish, I was wanting to give an example of so she is getting older, and so she is becoming aware of her beauty, right? And that it may be fleeting. She's pondering that, and then to have when she's with Dwight, and when Dwight chooses he chooses the nip, it's like it kind of shakes her
Yeah,
because she's thinking, okay, wow, I'm getting older, I'm not as young. People don't perceive me with as being beautiful. They're conflating being old with being ugly. And so she's wrestling all of that, and she looks in the mirror, and then she just it's like it's a gradual change, but then she's like, I need that water, with that water, then I can retain my youth and beauty, and she just rejects how she was raised in pursuit of the elusive. Like you can't, no one stays young forever, you
right.
know?
And then originally her intentions are noble because she has a grandmother who's dying of cancer.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's kind of like the whole thing because at first as I recall in the book, she comes across Dwight. He's selling these big, great canvas paintings, and they're basically his recollect, if I can say the word, recollection of. meeting this nymph in the woods. And of course she's not too sure. She's heard some stories from his grandmother, and then everything's confirmed when they go out into the woods and they both witness it. Dwight again, but then Trish the first time. And then that's kind of where the cylinders kind of click in her head. Where at first it's Noble because she's so, and and I felt that when I was reading that story about her grief of her grandmother dying. So very well done. The writing was exceptionally. They just felt like real people, which is the greatest
Oh, thank
compliment.
you.
They
Yeah,
truly,
that is. Thank you.
yes, the
It's good
innocence.
to hear your reaction first time. So that's good.
Oh yeah, because I'm just taking the time reading it, and then as we progress in the story, and then it gets much darker where they do, and I'll let you do it because dang, this is your story. I'm just
Oh
kind of
no, I enjoy hearing you discuss. So it gets because it's a horror,
yes.
and so,
Oh,
and so I'm trying to illustrate the thematic premise, right? Your relentless pursuit of an objective. You will achieve your objective, but it will destroy you. So that is where we're headed with Dwight, because he becomes so obsessed that he had, and so does Trish. Like they're just gonna collide, right? And had he relented, right? Had he said, okay, but that wouldn't have been true to the thrust of the story because he was all in at that point. And it's funny because I was thinking one of the earlier versions, he was going to just get destroyed. And I'm like, killed or whatever. I'm like, and I don't remember what made me come up with that particular ending but that was like, to me, that's the perfect ending. He has to be like, that's it.
mhm.
That he has to be transformed into the tree like that. That's the ending right there. But I don't remember where it clicked for me. But yeah, it's the relentless that obsession, that inability to relent. Like he just had to go in. He had to go all in. Both Trish and Dwight.
Yeah, exactly. And at first, Dwight, and what's kind of interesting because these are two characters that start off with very pure intentions, but of course, we know the pathway to hell is made by pure
Mm-hmm.
intentions. So,
Yep.
yeah, because, Dwight is again very, like you said, very childlike. So for him, it's just like a big kid, just a big kid,
Yes.
very innocent. And then, of course, and it's interesting because in a way, he does very unselfish things too, because Trish is pressuring him for this healing water to heal his grandmother, and to the point where she's trying to seduce him and trying to say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm your girlfriend," and he's like, "Okay," and stuff like that. And but then, of course, and then when he finally meets the nymph in whatever human form, and we realize, at least in the story, the head nymph, who's much more beautiful and tall than the others, Anita. So, talk
Mhm.
about doing the research of Greek mythology, incorporating. You had Nita, who's from Greek mythology, as one of the nymphs, and then you had oh, what's her name again? I gotta look. Is it oh, what's the Bea? What was it?
Oh goodness gracious.
I got the book, so I'll go.
Basha? Is it Basha?
Basha, that's it, Basha.
BACIA, right?
Basha. Yeah, that was the one that he falls for, Basha in the book.
Yeah. So I Googled really. I just Googled. I Googled. And which is funny because research to me, you'd be amazed at how much of your story actually comes from the research. Like I was researching because I didn't know that much about the that aspect of Greek mythology. So I Googled it and I was like, this is really fascinating. Like the sticks. I mean, I had heard about the sticks, but I didn't know what it was. So all the research, I just Googled and was just writing down back then, right, literally handwriting the notes and stuff, and just boom, that's how I came up with it, just from research. So research is key because I was able to research it and using straight out of their mythology. That's how I came up with it. I didn't even know all that stuff existed. But
Oh,
yeah.
that's so cool. So yeah, it's kind of like if you need an inspiration, just do plenty of research. Just research the heck out of it.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. The story will emerge.
And then, of course, when we get on later into the story, they go on a quest. So, in order to get the healing water, they basically have to go on a quest where they swim beneath the lake through these tunnels, and it takes like days, several days. and then they ride this boat. And I love the description. So again, for those who are listening and watching this podcast, definitely get this book. It's great. If you love fantasy, really, really great. So again, high praise to you as an author,
Thank
Mary.
you.
But yeah, but it is tragic because, like you said, because Dwight's very innocent, and all he wants to do is be with the beautiful woman that he
Hmm.
sees. That's so it's very pure. But then what turns ugly in the story is that is basically when, like you said earlier, Trish becomes very insulted that Dwight is head over heels with this goddess and not her. So it's kind of
Yeah,
like, but it's interesting. So again, very interesting with characters where it's kind of like she doesn't really love Dwight in a romantic
right,
sense. And he's kind of like it's kind of like your kid brother or something like that, but it's kind of like, oh, I got to I and for whatever reasons, like, oh, I got to help my grandmother, so I'll do whatever it takes to get this healing water from whatever source it's coming from. But then of course when he starts showing, it's kind of like, wait a second, it's like, okay,
right,
didn't like him, so you're upset. so,
right.
so
Yeah, yeah,
and that's very true with people like that.
yeah.
But then
Their
what
ego.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. The ego, just the fact of like, wait a second. I was like, well, you didn't really love him. You're just using him, but you're bent out of shape because he's fallen for this beautiful, again, very true to human life. So again, great writing on your part. But then of
Thank
course, yeah, of course. And then of course, when we have Dwight, he's so heartbroken. He starts acting, then that's where I felt the tragedy of what you just described with your premise of him feeling, first he's rejected where Trish says, I'm no longer your girlfriend. And he just, you see that heartbreak and it's kind of like, hurt people. Then he transfers that hurt where
you.
he's, and I love it. So I think it's beautiful how you had his demise of him becoming a tree versus just dying because
Yeah,
he loves nature. All he wants to do is spend as much time in the woods. And then of course, but then of course he has like a broken off like conch shell or something like that. He starts stabbing the tree, threatening
yeah,
to kill, do all these trees. And again, he's a very childlike character. So it's kind of so yeah, and then of course the nymphs, they don't know that. They just think, oh my gosh, here's this, he's hurting our forest out of
hmm,
being hurt, which is natural. So it's really sad because when I saw like both characters how they die, and then or in this case like they're it's kind of like the ironic dramatic irony of
yeah,
what happens, which is great. So I just went, I'm like read it, and I'm like, and I felt bad because I was like, gosh, I love Dwight, but I see why you know
yeah. I felt bad, dude. I was like, oh man, I don't really want this to happen to Dwight, but it's a natural progression. Like it's a natural end.
yeah,
But yeah, I didn't want it to happen
yeah.
either.
But that's what's great with your storytelling, honestly, because because you view them as real people, and it's like, okay, like Dwight, don't, no, it's okay, dude, it's okay. And it's like, Trish, what the hell are you doing, you selfish?
Yeah, right. It's like no, no. Yeah. So I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
Of course, yeah. So I just felt after I read it, it's like I gotta talk to her about it. So again, if you haven't read The Woods, definitely check it out. It's wonderful. And so again, if it's sorry for spoilers, but I had to talk about the specifics, for having read it. But now let's talk about your other books. So the one that you also have is called 50 Shades of Gore. And is that a
Hmm.
collection of short stories? That
It is.
I have not read that sadly, but I'm in the process of getting the book. So that's my next to read list. So
Yeah, it's just a collection. Yeah, it's just some random short stories that I had. And again, I was like, well, if any of these, if I ever do a screenplay for any of these, it's better if I already have them published in a different, published, and that way I retain the rights. So that was the impetus. So boom, put them all together in one collection. They're kind of eclectic. They really are kind of like if you're looking for an overriding theme or through line, there isn't.
yeah, it's
They're
just like
just random stories. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure someone may say, well, I noticed that you mentioned this, and it's. I think one time Ian even said a lot of my stories have water, which I hadn't thought of,
Mhm.
but a couple of those do. Water is in there, either drinking water or body of water. Ian noticed that. I hadn't even noticed it, but it's no. That's about it. That's got to be it.
Yeah, but that's so cool though. And actually, speaking of water, there is this one. Have you seen Wicked yet? The
You know,
movie.
I have not. Sadly, I have not.
It's okay.
I'm
It's a
probably
great.
the
It's a
only person I wanted to see. I just haven't seen it yet. I plan on watching it.
Oh, you need to. It's great because the director, John Chu, on the theme of water, he incorporated some water into the movie version that wasn't really well known in the musical version. And I'm trying to paraphrase from memory what they talked about, where they talked about that water's a sense of purity, it's life-giving, it's also flows from the unconscious into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so maybe that's one of the reasons why you like to use water. It's just from either subconscious or unconsciously. It's like this sense of purity and life-giving, but also taps into the how we live to enjoy fantasy. So maybe
Huh.
that could be it.
That could be it. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
That
So if you ever
sounds
watch,
about right. Yeah.
yes, I'll have to try to find that link because I know that even Screenwriter Winnie Holzman talked about it. So I'll try to send you that link. So if
Yeah.
you ask me again, it's like, well, here's what I think might be.
Yeah, definitely send that. Send that along.
Yeah,
Sounds like
and then with Shades of Gore, was there any particular stories? Because I know it's hard to pick and choose your children, but if you had to select a few from the 50 Shades of Gore, what would be the ones that you enjoyed the most writing that were just like it just flowing just freely from your fingertips?
so maybe uh the children with the black eyes. That might be one.
Ooh, okay.
Um and because that one we had heard various stories about these children that were, I believe, in New England or maybe throughout the East. And they supposedly were kind of creepy with all black eyes.
Oh
Like,
goodness.
yeah. And so I was thought, And then I Googled, came up with all kinds of different little stories, and I created that one. So that's one of my favorites. And and Shame the Devil is another one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Shame the Devil. That one, and I haven't revisited them since in years, since it published it. And even before then, I hadn't like toyed around with them. They were just done and I just uploaded. But Shame the Devil is also a good one. That one, it's about this father who was incarcerated. And because of bad choices he made, which he owns up to, his daughter gets hooks up with the wrong guy. That guy fatally beats her.
Hmm.
Well, she's in the hospital, right? And so the dad's goal then is to sounds funny when you say it, but his goal then is to go to hell and kill the devil. That's what his goal is, to kill the devil, because he blames the devil for everything that's happened. And
Uh,
so that story, yeah, that story is how he accomplishes his goal. He literally he does that. Like he goes to hell. He kills himself and goes to hell and kills the devil. But
wow.
it's called Shame the Devil. Yeah.
Okay.
And I go ahead. What'd you
Oh
say?
no, I was just that's cool because this is the first I'm hearing the stories. Again, I haven't read 50 Shades of Gore yet, so
Okay. Yeah.
but I definitely need to read it. Now you're piquing my
Yeah.
interest even more. So I'm gonna definitely get that book.
Yeah. That one I was influenced by. Oh God. Well. Okay. I think it's Bradbury's. Is it the Tattoo Man? Bradbury has a story where this guy has a lot of tattoos. So I was influenced. Well, you'll see if you get it and you read that, you're like, oh, okay, this is what she's talking about.
Okay.
Because the tattoos are what enable him to navigate through hell.
Mhm.
Because the tattoos give him certain power. Let's just say,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well, that's so cool. I definitely got to get that book. Definitely got to get it. And then another third book that I mentioned earlier was that you wrote. Let me see if I can remember the title. It's like my MBE. What was it called again? My I got my note here real quick. So it's like how I passed the California State Bar exam. So talk about that.
Oh God.
Yeah, so this is like not fiction. This is an actual like true account of you passing the state
Mhm.
California bar exam. So talk about that, both about passing the bar exam and then how you compiled. So is it kind of like not a journal? So can you talk about that book since that's really based on an actual events happening in your it's your story about how you passed the bar exam and for the state of California.
Yeah. Yeah. So that one, that's funny. So when I was preparing to take it, it's a funny story. Well, not quite funny, haha, but funny like ah. So I was on Facebook and I was trying to one determine whether I was even going to retake it at all. Uh, and so I said, well, should I read? Should I write? Should I spend this time writing or should I spend this time studying for the bar? So whenever I'm at a crossroads like that, I just prayed about it, and I got the impression that I should take the bar. Okay. So at that point, it's like, well, how? I need help with the essays. How am I going to do? Boom. I was on Facebook. Out of the blue, I get it's a bar exam group, California bar exam group, comes in my feed. So I'm like, okay, let me stumble in here. So I ventured in there and I saw a post by I had not met her. I didn't know who she was, anything. Saw a post and she stated she was gathering another class for tutoring. She'd be tutoring some bar students if she had room, if you were interested. I'm like, oh shoot, me, I'm interested. So I emailed her, long story short. We're great friends to this day right now. So long story short, I emailed her. She tutored me, helped me pass the bar. And so part of that process, the tutoring, she suggested that the students that we do like a diary of sorts,
Mhm.
like each day, just write something. And at first I was like, what, how is that going to help? Right. But it was tremendous because it's so much when you're preparing for the bar, it's like so much stress, so much that writing is a great outlet, which I had no idea it would be. I'm sorry, just my grandpa here is trying to get my attention.
Good, you're
Yeah.
good.
So yeah, I had no idea it would be such a fun release. And so what that is basically it's my what I wrote while preparing. Like for instance, one of the in some of the pages you'll see me stating because I had to do like the multiple choice the essays, and so some of them is just like, oh, I can't believe I got this score or whatever. But so it really is what I wrote during that time frame while preparing. So and I even put like the scores because part of her process at the time, she wanted us to keep notes of the program that I was using. It allows you to take simulated. Well, they use actual tests from the California State Bar exam. Some of the test questions that they were using to prep, they use on their program. And so you answer the questions and you get your score. And so depending on your score, you're either happy or you're not. And so she was like, just write, just go ahead, just do it, keep doing it, keep doing it. So boom. So that book is like it captures all of that from the beginning when I started all the way up until like one day or two before taking the bar. So it kind of just chronicles the process. Yeah.
Wow,
Which
that's
is yeah, and I wrote it. It's just when I was writing it, I had no idea I would go ahead and publish it. But now that I did, I'm glad I did because when you're in that position, it's good to see, oh, okay, let me see what she was doing, where was her mind at that point? I'm like, and then it'll be like, oh, okay, so she wasn't sure either. Mm-mm. It's not at all.
it's like
It's
that
like,
memo. It's like a memo from the trenches because I did see
Yeah,
some of the reviews on Amazon for the book, and there were some people that clearly stated like they said, yeah, this has been extremely helpful for myself studying for a bar exam. So, but I also can imagine it was also therapeutic, where it's kind of like not
that's a good word.
venting,
Yeah,
like not kind of venting, where it's kind of like, you know, how at the end of the day, if you had you just need to vent. So I imagine
yeah.
that's what you did for the writing, just journaling and all that.
It was amazing. Look, because when you're going through it, you're like, what? And even like now, Diane, that's her name, Diane Kemper. She, like I said, we're great friends now. But when we were going through it, I was like, how did she even know? Because she's a law professor. She'd been doing it for years. But I was like, how does she even, know that this is even going to be effect? It was perfect. That was exactly what I needed. And so it's hard to even put into words unless, well, a writer, you would understand because you're a writer. But for non-writers, it's just like, what? How is that helping? Aren't you? It helped because you at some point you're just so exhausted anyway from studying. You do need like a break. You need a reprieve, and you just put it on in there. Like I was mentioning how I was doing the multiple choice portion, the essays, and all of that. It's in there. And when I go back through it, I'm like, wow. And then these guys were right there too, barking and trying to jump in my lap. Like they were like all there. So I'm glad I have it now because it's forever captured. Like that particular moment in time, it's forever. It's there now. It's forever.
Yeah, and I know that from what I saw from the reviews, they've a lot of people found it helpful because it is like showing like, hey, this is what I went through. So that's incredible that you publish it. So I'm so grateful for that. Seriously.
Thank you. Yeah, at first I was like, oh man. And I'm like, nah, just put it out there. Even if it just helps one person, it's worth it. So
Yeah, and then
I'm
that's the other
happy.
question. So, say, for example, if there's other aspiring writers or authors who do want to go about publishing either on Amazon, how did you find the publishers for your books for both The Woods, 50 Shades of Gore, and then, of course, your nonfiction, How I Passed the State California Bar Exam? So, how did you come about finding the publishers for all three of those books?
Amazon, another taking it back to wordplay. When Terry, I forgot how he put it, but basically it was like do it yourself. Don't ask for permission or the no permission way, which is how we did the film group as well. It was the no permission. That's how he was big on that. And so I was like, well, do I want to spend time trying to find a publisher or do I want to just do it? And
Mhm.
so I just did it. I didn't even worry about trying to get a publisher. I saw on Amazon that you could do it through Amazon. And so that's how I did it.
Really?
I did it. Straight. And my other half on the Woods, he did the cover. He's
Really?
an artist. Yeah, he's an artist. He paints and stuff. So I asked him to do a cover for me. I described what I wanted, and he was able to knock that out for me.
Oh,
So
that's
we,
great. So your partner, so he's the one that did the cover for
yeah, he did that. Yep.
was curious. I was kind of like, who did the cover? Uh,
Yeah, I told him what I was looking for, and he's like, okay, boom. And
yeah,
so, yeah, that's part of the no permission style of filmmaking that Terry always advocates. I'm like, same thing, no permission. I don't need your permission. Amazon can allow you to do it. I said,
yeah.
so I'm going to do it like that.
That's so cool. And then was there any like terms or conditions you had to sign with Amazon, especially for producing the hardcover or paperback copies of books or
So I don't remember. There are no terms in that sense. The only conditions are the fee, how you set up your fee, the payments. But no, you retain all rights. They don't own anything. And it with Amazon, at least back then, I haven't done it in a couple years, but it's they print it as it's ordered. So they don't have like to be holding on to a bunch of inventory anywhere. When
uh,
someone orders it sends some type of alert or whatever, and then it prints. And so
really?
that's how they do it. And that's how they were doing it. I don't know if they're still doing it now, but when I signed up, that's how they do it, and that's how they keep prices low. because they don't have to have a bunch of your stock sitting somewhere. It just, once it's ordered, it prints and gets mailed out.
I had no idea about that because wow. So whenever I ordered this book, it just like bing, we're gonna print it out.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
what I really love with that is, like, say you saying you were doing your play. Well, if you wanted to publish it yourself, Amazon.
oh, I'm gonna look into that because I that's something
Then
I
it's
really want to
free.
do.
Yeah.
Because I think
Hmm.
another word player, Scott Mullins, he's been doing a lot of his plays. He's known as Scott. I believe he's known as Scott
Yeah.
the.
Got the reader or the writer? I forgot now. I forgot what
I think it was the reader because I think Scott Mullins was a script reader. He did script coverage
Mhm.
for that, so that's how I remember that. Cool that
Yeah,
he's
Scott is funny. He one of my favorite stories from Scott. Have you interviewed him yet?
no. I asked him. I was like, "Hey, would you like to be on my podcast?" And he's like, "Perhaps." So. Well, yeah, I might need your help on that because it was
For
like, hey, Scott,
sure.
yeah, just be like, hey, I'm on this show because that's my goal to try to get all the
Word
original role
players.
players, yeah. And I know that I have whole other lists that I want to go through. So yeah, well, let's see if we can get Scott in the show because I know just just because if you're a script doing script coverage, that's immensely that's another skill set of determining like how do you determine good scripts versus bad ones or the really, really great ones that you can find from the slush pile. So yeah, definitely let's try to get him on the show for sure.
Yeah, he one of my favorite stories of his is when he was in New York working at a movie theater. Stephen King, I think it was Darkman. I think it was Darkman.
Okay.
Stephen King came to the theater.
Really?
Yeah, to see Darkman. I'm almost sure if you do get him on the show, you can ask him about it. But I think he said it was Darkman and Stephen King. That's what's sticking. I remember thinking, like, what? You had
Yeah.
Stephen King in your theater? Yeah. And so that's one of my memories. He'll probably be like, she remembers that? Yeah, I do. Stephen King, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna definitely ask him. So I'm just once he's on, I'm gonna ask him that because that's so cool. I mean, considering Stephen King went to see a Sam Raimi movie, Dark Man. So,
Yep.
but that is cool, and he's one of your heroes. So,
Oh yeah.
that's cool. Because I know before we did the interview, you told me briefly how. Can you talk about how you were able to get Stephen King's essay on the word player site? Because you told me earlier, but for our viewers, I want them to hear as well.
Oh, yeah. So I believe this is how it happened. So I'm a huge Stephen King fan. So I used to write. I don't even know if he even still has that same address anymore. I think he's living in Florida now. But I used to see they used to have like a fan mail for us up in Maine. So I would send them random things. But I remember reading on Wordplay where Terry had mentioned that that particular essay was one of his favorite essays. And so, Imagery in the Third Eye, right? I think that's the name. And so when he said that, I'm like, let me see if I can write or get Stephen King to give you permission. So I did. I sent Stephen King a letter, forgot all about it. A couple years later, Terry emails me and he's like, he didn't say that Stephen King mentioned or anything. He just said, look what column, or look what we have permission now to. And I was like, oh, Stephen King. I was like, yes, yes. And I was like, I said, I wrote him. I said, I was trying to get him. I said, I don't know if that's what did it, but I did write him because oh my God, that essay is incredible. It is
Yes.
an incredible essay for those who either want to write screenplay or you don't necessarily want to write screenplays, but you want your writing. You want to write more visually.
Yes.
Definitely check that one. That thing was incredible. Um, just incredible. Yeah, I can't. Of course, I love Stephen King, so everything he does, I think, is incredible. But that one really is an incredible. He's so talented. Stephen King's just amazing. But yeah, so that I don't know if I was the reason or not, but I definitely did write him and say, hey, this is our website. I mean, our website. This is the website, wordplayer.com. Been very instrumental in all of our lives. It's been so helpful with writing. Um, And it happened. So hopefully that is how it happened. But I'm just glad that the essay is there because it's an incredible essay.
It is, yeah. So thank you so much for doing that because that's one of my favorite essays. And that's in fact why I went to go get the book on writing by Stephen King because of that. So thank you so much for you and
Wow.
Terry
Yeah.
both for both of you and Terry trying to get it on the website. So which is amazing. And then speaking of the website, so now we come to the part where I ask any fellow word players their favorite top five columns. Now we know that that essay is one of them.
Yeah.
So if you do want to include that one, we can allow it. So, but what are the columns that really it's kind of like, and it's hard because they're all of them are great. They're all great columns.
Yeah.
So, but if you had to pick the ones that have been the most inspirational, influential, which ones would those be? And by either Terry Razio or Ted Elliott, which ones, or even the indie pros like we have.
Are silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh wow. There's the off-screen movie.
Hmm.
Uh, that one is crucial because that one ties right back into with Agree and keeping stuff on the spine of the story. Because the off-screen movie, it's like some of that stuff, it's like you don't need that.
Hmm.
Like the audience, you we can infer that. Like you don't need to show us that. We need to show the good stuff, the stuff that's going to propel the story forward. The rest of that stuff, we don't need to see. We infer it's the off-screen movie. So that's one of my favorites. Door number three. Was that Marsilli? I think that was
Yes, by
Marsilli.
Bill Bersilli, who co-wrote
Yeah,
Who with Terry Razio. So yeah, Bill, that's another
yeah.
column by Bill Bersilli. Yes.
That one, I love that one. That's three so far. Oh goodness. What's
It's
another
hard. It's
one?
hard.
It is hard. Oh wow. The Strange Attractor.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's up near the top because, of course, I love horror. So all of my stuff has some type of, well, not all of it, most of it. They all have some type of a strange attractor in there just because the nature of the genre. Um, one more. Huh. Can't think of
Well, on the
it's so
topic of Strange Attractor, for those who don't know what that means, can we tell us about what it is and the importance of that and why it is important to have some sort of strange attractor to your story? Let's talk about that while we're thinking of the other one for now.
yeah, so let's see if I can paraphrase. It is like that what you can add to your story that will make people drawn to it. And for me, it's a supernatural, it often takes the form of a supernatural element or some type of fantastical, out of the ordinary type of pull, where it makes your readers come back for more. That makes them want to turn the page or keep sitting there to see, okay, what's going to happen next. And for me, that takes the form of with horror, it's going to be something supernatural. For
Yes.
me, like it's going to either be supernatural or fantastical. Maybe both. Blending the horrific with the fantastic, because most of my stuff is horror.
Mhm.
But it doesn't have to be. It could be something else. It could be magic.
Mhm.
If you're into magic. Um, but yeah, it's that extra out of the ordinary thing that will make someone either keep turning the page or stay there watching, holding their bladder. They don't want to go to the bathroom. They're just so enwrapped. And
Yes.
that's the goal really is as a story writer, you want to enwrapped for me anyway. I want to entertain and I want to have them like this. I
Yeah.
don't want them going to the bathroom. I don't want them checking their phone. I don't want them doing anything other than focus on the story.
And he did
And so,
and he did that for me as a reader when I read The Woods because
oh, thank you.
yeah, because I remember it fully because I spent, I mentioned this earlier before I recorded, was that I was taking time going to a local arboretum, which is like a nature garden full of very beautiful. I'll have to send you pictures of it. And then I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, I don't, because I knew I had time to kill while my car was being repaired. So I thought, Oh, Let Me Bring the Woods. I've been meaning to read it, so I definitely read half the book. Well, just for I think I spent like 3 hours or four just sitting in this very garden-like area, just reading your book, and then I completed the other half, and of course I finished it. So I was within those two sittings.
Wow.
Yeah. So you did a great job. You kept me raptured as a reader. So congratulations for doing this. Yeah, yeah. So I can say
Thank
that you
you.
did a really good job. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal. Like for me, and that's like I love that experience when I'm reading mainly Stephen King. When you're reading and you're just like, that's the experience I want to impart. So I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
Oh yeah, because especially when I'm reading it, it's kind of like, okay, we're at the part where, Trish and Dwight meet. Okay, and then of course you turn to page, and then you come to the ending, and it's like, oh my gosh, Dwight, which have been character, but yeah, and it just kind of like, yeah. So and also, actually, what about there's a column called The Big Finish by Terry Rossio. Have you read that one? The Big Finish about endings, how to make them
Is
unexpected.
that see that because I remember and that's one of the things they make fun of Steve. And by they I mean Steve Barr, Tim. A lot of the old time work players, they always make fun of Stephen King and his endings, how his stories end. They always say he just ended it, like he just stopped writing. There's no end. And so, if that column, I think I have read. I've read all of them up until a certain point. Um, so it depends on when it was written. I'm almost certain I've read it. If it was written prior to like 2007 for sure. I read all of them prior to
Oh,
2008, 2009. I
it
read them
was,
all.
yeah, because Big Finish, I remember reading it in early 2000, like 2003. So this was way before seven.
Oh yeah,
And
for
he just,
sure.
and of course, Terry used his film Aladdin as an example of Jafar getting sucked into the lamp, because, he wants the genie so bad that he eventually gets tricked in becoming a genie. And he used like Darby O'Gill and the Little People, which is my all-time favorite movie. Loved it as a kid. So I'm reading it, and it's like Jerry is describing my favorite movie that terrified the hell out of me as a kid. I reckon. Have you seen it yet, Darby
I
O'Gill?
still haven't seen it. I know I was supposed to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
Me too. Oh my gosh, this is right up your alley. Yeah, if you have a chance to do something relaxing, definitely watch Darby O'Gill. It's on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great one. But those are the examples that Terry used in that column, and I saw that too within your book, saying the comeuppance of Dwight, even though he's not a bad character, but because of his actions that he does. So, because first I was shocked when I read what happened to Dwight in your book of the woods, but then it's like, you know what, it makes sense because he always wanted to be he wanted to be in a way part of nature. Now he physically is. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but that's just again example of just good writing. So you definitely again wonderful writer. So yeah, so my
Thank
hats
you.
off to you for sure. Gosh.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, and so but what would be so do you have any other projects you're working on, any other books, or are there any irons in the fire, if you will, or are you just kind of taking the time to just focus on, just your main job as an attorney at the moment, or trying to do anything creative more so in the recent.
I'm trying to put the finishing touches. Diane and I, my the law professor that tutored me, we're great friends. So we're trying to finish this play now. If I can get that knocked out, I'll be feeling great. So just been working on that off and on, off and on, off and on, doing that. And I have a couple other projects I want to. I'm writing with our about our five Rottweilers. I'm writing a story about those guys. Um,
Oh, love
yeah,
that.
I'm gonna write that.
You already have an audience, so you can
Right?
yes, so you
Like
guys
I would
can,
be crazy not to write that, right? Yeah. So I
yeah.
gotta write that. It's all fleshed out. I've already started writing. I just have to finish it. So those are the two main things that I'm working on right now in my what little spare time because we're also always online trying to respond to the fans, putting up videos and stuff like that. But yeah, those are the main two.
That's so cool. Yeah. So that once you ever finish both those projects, both the story about your five Rottweilers, and then of course the play that you're working on too. Is it all right to ask what the genre is and what's it called and the premise of that current one? Hello there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a mixture of everything. Like it has everything. It has a lot of astrology in it. Um, it's basically about the power of love.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, and love for your children, love for your friends, just love and the sacrifice that people do for love.
I love that. Yeah. So whenever it's finished, I'd love to be a reader of that because
For
now.
sure. I'll let you know too. And give me your honest feedback for sure.
Yeah, and any other works, even like past stuff, like when you talked about Fairy with Ian Gibson. If you ever come across that script, again, I just love reading other people's work because it inspires me to try to do better with my own projects. So
Yeah,
if you have anything like that, would love to read it.
I
I'm
will.
yeah, I'm one
I
of
will look for it, and if I find it, I'll send you a link and email it, or
or
send me your
PDF.
email address. Yeah, give me your email address, and then I can just email it to you. But it's here somewhere on one of my computers. I think I might have it on this one.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll find it. I have it on a thumb drive somewhere, but I'll find it and email it to you, and I'll let you know when we're done with the play too, so you can read that.
Oh, I love that. And also in the background, as we're talking and noticing there, I see one of your dogs in the
You
background.
see him?
Yeah, there they are. There they are. They're just seeing what's going on here.
Yeah,
There they
they're
are.
like, let's play.
Yeah, my gosh. But I want to just thank you so much for seriously just taking the time just to be on my show. And I love just hearing, just your stories and just your experience, especially writing The Woods, because again, I really enjoyed the book. So I'm so grateful that I got a physical copy of it. And so yeah, now I'm one of your fans now. So I appreciate.
Yay, thank you so much. I appreciate hearing that. I don't get to hear the reaction, so that's good to hear your firsthand reaction.
Oh yeah. So again, the way how you draw the characters, because they just feel like real characters, and it's hard to do because I think with a lot of novice writers, they just think of point A to point B, but it's kind of like, well, you have to infuse like, whether it has to be something like they feel like real people and not just plot points or stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
because it's just hard to
Mm-hmm.
do.
It is.
But yeah, so everyone can take a lesson from you because even though it's kind of like a smaller cast of characters, they're very well drawn. So again, you did an incredible job with that. So high praise.
Thank you. I love hearing that. Thank you. It makes it all worth it.
Yeah, and but yeah, we'll stay in touch soon for sure. Stay in touch, and but again, but then thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you. I'm glad we were able to finally get it done.
Thank you so much for watching my conversation with attorney, screenwriter, and novelist Mariama Myers. If you have enjoyed this episode of Reed's Conversations, be sure to click the like button and subscribe button on my YouTube channel. That way, you will be notified for future upcoming episodes.